take projection.
It's Friday morning, and you know what that means. It's time for another episode of the Alabama Slam podcast. I'm your host, Corey Hanna.
What's going on, guys? It's Patrick Akers.
And we got some special guests today. We're going to talk about a special event. We've got Carmen Michael from New South, representing New South Pro Wrestling, and Ricky Fernandez from the Trash Pandas, Rocket City Trash Pandas. You were the promotions guy, on-field DJ, or not DJ, MC. You carry a lot of hats over there, right?
Yeah, you got to wear a lot of them. And yes, I wear that hat, I wear that other hat, and then occasionally, I pop up in the ring.
I say I've seen you wear some pretty funny hats as well.
Yeah, man. Well, when you're not good at math and you can't build anything, you got to figure out something to be good at.
Exactly why I was a music major, my dude.
Well, let's get it started. While we've got both of these guys here, there is going to be a very fun event on Thursday, the 22nd, at Toyota Field here in Huntsville, Alabama, Madison, technically Alabama. If you are in the area, I encourage you to go. It's going to be super fun. What exactly is the name of it again? I've forgotten the exact name.
It is Trash Pandas Wrestling Night with New South Pro Wrestling.
Yeah.
We're getting started at 5:20 p.m. right on the concourse. As soon as you walk in, you'll have no choice but to see the wrestling ring as you walk in, so you'll know you're in the right place.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people found that out a couple years ago when you guys set up. I saw one guy take a back bump right in front of the team store.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, there was one person who walked out thinking, oh, hey, I'm going to go grab some cotton candy. Oh, my God.
Then they have an Adam Priest getting back body dropped onto the concrete.
I remember walking by thinking like, oh, whoa. Okay.
That was great, by the way, because there was a group of, I'd say probably college age girls all standing around watching, kind of like snickering, like wrestling. This is that, well, you know. And then as soon as I heard that word come out of their mouth, Adam Priest hit the concrete and they all went gasped in terror. And I was like, yep, we got him.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would expect that there'll be some people there strictly to see the wrestling. I mean, let's go see some wrestling on Thursday. But, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to walk in and be like, hey, what's happening here? Because they're just there for the ball game. So they're going to get basically a free show.
Well, they bought a ticket on wrestling night. So.
That's right. Yeah, you're getting the wrestling whether you like it or not.
I mean, this is a good opportunity for you guys, though, at New South, right? Because, the amount of fans that come to a Trash Pandas game. And then, like you said, you're right there when the gates open.
Absolutely. The last show we did there was during the first season, I believe. And we had the roaming wireless camera there. So all the action that we had in ring was also being broadcast on the Jumbotron. So like even people driving down 565 were seeing New South Pro Wrestling. And we got a good bit of fans off of that. If it's awesome. Not for like, hey, I enjoyed the wrestling, people saw the big championship belt and they're like, all right, I got to get my picture with that. And then they just started following us. So.
Yeah. And then like you and I were talking about before we started rolling, like this is a thing that when I was doing it, I don't know, 15, 16 years ago, there weren't opportunities like this. Like the scene in North Alabama has evolved so much kind of as the area has evolved. What has that been like for you kind of seeing New South and seeing the wrestling scene here in North Alabama kind of grow the way it has?
It has been so fun to me going from being a fan in the past, coming to shows and like we were mentioning, you hear Alabama independent wrestling, you think, all right, I'm going to go watch Uncle Joe with his beer belly and missing teeth.
I shared a locker room some of those days. Yeah.
Come out there and throw some weak looking punches or whatever that end up getting thrown on a podcast for views. But seeing it go from that to now there are actual like viable options here in Alabama, not just, places where fans can like not be embarrassed to go to, but like, New South in particular, I'm bringing them up as an example because obviously I do most of my work there, but we have people that you see on national TV who know of New South and, sliding in the DMs wanting to come work for us because we built such a reputation over these 8 years.
Yeah. And then Ricky, what is it like for you guys at the Trash Pandas to like, obviously there's a lot of minor league games, right? You have to keep it fun, keep it interesting. Why wrestling? Why did you guys go this route?
Why not, man? I mean, I know me personally, I've been a wrestling fan since I was 6 years old. So, I mean, I've always loved it. And Rob Sternberg, who works in production over there with the Trash
Shout out to Rob. I love Rob.
Oh man, that's probably my best wrestling buddy in the world right there. I mean, we got our own little special language where we're talking in wrestling code from stuff. So he got a hold of Carmen. They made it all happen. And so when I heard, I mean, I was ecstatic, and then the fact that I got to go in the ring and do a little something with you guys last time. I mean, that was probably the best day of my whole year right there. I mean, little 6-year-old me was smiling on that day. So, man, I mean, how can you not love pro wrestling?
Patrick and I saw you last year at the GCW show, and you looked like you were having the time of your life.
Oh, man, I had such a good time. Yeah, I love those shows, too. I mean, you just said, what was it, like the East Hall, the VBC or whatever? Like, yeah. I think I went to a banquet there in high school.
Exactly.
And now I'm watching dude go through a door.
So my favorite part about this, and I'm not sure if it ever got mentioned anywhere, but those who worked the show know this, and that is next door. Because obviously in the East Hall, they're all ballrooms. They're just sectioned off by like a wall that pulls open and shut. There was a birthday party being held in the room directly next to us. So like as people are getting thrown through doors and getting hit with steel chairs, you just have a bouncy castle in the room directly next to us.
Kill him, teriyaki. That was me. I feel bad. I'm sorry to that kid's birthday. I'm sorry.
No, we brought a buddy of ours at the time. Patrick and I were working together, and we brought a buddy of ours who had never been to a show, and we tried to show him. We were on a work trip last year. We tried to show him AEW one night at our hotel, and we were like, "Oh, it's good. This is going to be great. It's going to be Moxley versus Hangman Adam Page. It's going to be, match of the month or whatever." And it was the match that Hangman got the concussion, and we're like, "Oh, this is I don't know, like if his neck is broken, what's going on?" And we were like, "This is weird." And we were
nothing like having to explain to someone who's never watched wrestling before. Okay, hey, this is not part of the show. What's happening right now? Like this is an actual.
Yeah. We brought him to that show, and that was my first exposure to people from New South. Were on that show. People like Cabana Man Dan and Hunter Drake and folks like that. Yeah, but he had the time. He was like, how often do they go through doors?
Yeah.
I just want to see this guy get put through a door again.
And also seeing it live, and especially as up close you was in Huntsville, like to see the athleticism of these men and women like that close, that's what he was captivated by. I was like, oh man, they're like athletic. I'm like, oh yeah, this is different than what you probably have come to think about. And speaking of the Trash Panda, you bringing in some big names like Jordan Oliver too, that's going to be at this show, who's kind of making a huge name for himself on the indie scene.
Jordan Oliver is someone who we've had at New South quite a few times. Was in the Haas tournament last year, our biggest show of the year. Someone really been, busting his butt, proving himself these last few years, building a name. And then this year that we're in currently, has won GCW Tag Team Championships. He's become the JCW champion. Like,
had a fantastic match against Alex Shelley that we tweeted about. Got a retweet from Alex Shelley.
Hell yeah.
Someone who I also worked with very recently, and that kind of blew my mind.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
if I get sidetracked, I will get sidetracked on Alex Shelley trying to make the argument he's the most influential wrestler of his generation, but that'll be another podcast when we don't have guests. But it's cool that you guys are able to bring people in like that.
Yeah, so it looks like you're doing, is it just the 3 matches that you sent earlier?
Yes. So we are filming our 100th episode of New South Action Clash. We've got 3 matches on the card. We're going to start off with a battle royal featuring faces of past, present, and future in New South. And then also we have match 4 of the best of 7 series between Brandon Williams and Tyler Franks. And these two have been tearing it up. Yeah. Started back at the Saga Continues back in November. We had a show in Decatur where this all, initially kicked off where we had a match end in a draw, and both men not wanting enough. They're like, you know what? Let's have 5 more minutes.
Yeah,
let's do a best of 7. So it's been going on since then. Going to be a great match. And then for our main event, we have Jordan Oliver teaming with one of our best tag teams we have currently, called Triple Nines, which is the team of Braden Toon and Hunter Drake. And all 3 of those men have been tearing it up, and they're facing off with Kinsey Page, the current NWA Women's TV champion, and her group that she has here in the New South called The Helm, which is her younger sister Kylie Alexa, and then also the Memphis-made monster Walker Hayes. And Ricky, you're going to be scared of this dude.
What?
he's a big.
Did you tell him I said something? What do I need to be on the lookout for?
Just in general, this dude's a
Protect your neck.
big, scary man.
Cool. All right. Hey, well, he's my favorite wrestler already. So make sure he hears this.
Just telling you, check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah.
I don't want any of that. I didn't know this was going to happen. So.
You don't want the smoke?
He's not bringing any doors, is he?
No, I don't think we're allowed doors on the concourse.
Oh, thank God. All right, cool. What's the deal with the doors? Are doors at a lower price than they've ever been in American history?
Oh, yes.
Okay. I figured. Went through 7 doors the other
True
night.
story, peeling back the curtain a little bit. The GCW show that y'all went to, New South Pro Wrestling provided all the production, provided the ring. We also provided the doors. And what that meant is we had to go to Habitat for Humanity. You had to go to all the thrift stores. And when I tell you we bought every used door in like a 15-mile radius, I mean, we bought every single used door. And I was so mad at the end of the night because I thought they used every one of them. And I'm like, what are we going to use tomorrow? Oh, no, there's like 3 left. I'm like, okay, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Yo, my parents' house got a couple doors they could probably get rid of.
I'm down for that.
All right.
They need some
I'll take
upgrades.
a look at them.
Did anybody ask you, like, what are you buying these doors for?
I don't think so. Thankfully, that was all.
Just
Brandon
go in
Williams
wearing
and
your
his
New South gear
crew.
next time.
Yeah. Just tell me, like, there's
God.
going to be just
They're going to start ringing the bell.
Yeah.
You guys building a
They're
house?
like, Arlene, they're back again.
Yeah. No, somebody's going to take a Spanish fly through one, and she's going to be like, okay, I don't know what any of that means, but yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So, Ricky, you talked about the 6-year-old you last year, loving it. Take me back. What was your first kind of, how did you fall in love with wrestling at that age?
Man.
And who was your favorite?
Great question. Okay, so it probably comes from my dad. He was into wrestling, so of course I start watching at a young age. And then I remember going to, I think it was, I can't remember. I watched it back on the network the other day. I went to one of these Nitros in like 97. I was going to see if I could see myself. And that was
it the one in Birmingham?
No, it was in it was in Huntsville. I think I went to the second WCW Thunder ever. I was at that one. And then I think I went to a Nitro before that. And dude, I was hooked. I mean, me and my brother, we're like posing the mirror like the Steiner brothers and stuff at home. And, I'm hitting him with a pile driver in the kitchen, which was, he broke a collarbone once. That ended pretty soon after. But my favorite was always Macho Man Randy Savage. That was my guy. My mom has only ever called me twice in my life to let me know a celebrity has passed away. One was Burt Reynolds. The other one was Macho Man Randy Savage.
Oh, man.
Okay, I get no alerts about anything else that goes in the outside world from my mother, but she had to tell me, oh, my God, Rick, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We lost the Macho Man, which was tough. But that was my guy. And, I still I love it so much. I really got back into wrestling probably like 2018. You know how you go in and out sometimes throughout your life?
Yeah.
I found myself getting right back into it.
That's around the time I started watching again.
And it seems like the business is just, it's gotten so big since then. You can see it, so it's hard not to keep being a fan of it.
I was lucky. If you've never listened to the show, I've told this story 1,000 times, but I got a call from somebody. It was like, hey, there's a dude in the Shoals area. He's built a ring and basically a studio in his backyard. He spent thousands of dollars on cameras and equipment, and he wants to set up a new territory, and he needs camera operators for the weekend. I was like, I haven't watched wrestling since I was like 9, 10, and I've never covered wrestling. I've covered tons of sports and shot tons of sports. I was like, but I'll stand behind a camera and shoot. I was like, I'm sure I'll have fun. I'm sure it'll be fine. Well, I was hooked. Like I got in the car to come home that Sunday, and my favorite podcast, my comedians, the well-read guys, were talking about wrestling and throwback to wrestling. And I was like, well, I guess I'm watching wrestling this tonight when I get home.
It's the universe.
So I got home, like looked up some wrestling, and I started like asking people like favorite matches, and went back and started watching things. And then that was around the time AEW started. So, it was 6 months later. So AEW started, but yeah, I was all in. Good
no
time.
pun intended, right?
All in. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So we were probably back in close to the same time.
Yeah. So what was it you think that pulled you back in? Why do you think you got back into it?
Man, I think with all the podcasts and like all the coverage you see now from people around this age that watched it when they were younger, I think now that they're older, like they've appreciated and then seen, like, I've been wanting to talk about this stuff for years, but like, why'd they spell Jim the Anvil Neidhart's name wrong on Nitro in August 25th, 1997? I got questions, but I can't ask anybody that because they'll go, what in the hell are you talking about?
Patrick probably knows. Like, if you've got a question, holler at us on Twitter.
Oh, yeah, man.
I'll try to answer.
So I was always just fascinated by that stuff.
Yeah.
And now there's actually people talking about that era. And it seems like guys that are wrestling now, like they loved that too. So you can see the influences that it had on them. And it just makes you become a fan all over again.
And you can kind of see the influence too, because like the work that you do with the Trash Pandas, right? You kind of emceeing like, it's that over the top person. There's a lot of wrestling in it.
Oh yeah, it comes straight from pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. It's now influencing like every part of my life. Like I'm married now, and occasionally when my wife comes home, she gives me the preacher's elbow. Like it's going into her life. She'll like sit there and she'll warm up her elbow and look at me from across the room. I'm like, don't do it. Yeah. Don't do it. And then she'll go away for a little bit, and then out of nowhere over the couch, you know, the macho woman comes over here and plants one on me. So it's slowly ruining my life. Is that the word? Or enhancing my life? Yeah.
Improving 100%.
And now we're lucky enough, there's literally wrestling on nonstop, 24/7.
Literally every day of the week.
Yeah. Now our Saturdays are going to get taken back up again with.
My Saturdays have been swamped with wrestling for a long time.
Yeah, you're pretty much every Saturday for you, I would assume, because you were telling us off air, like you're not just a New South guy. You're working a bunch of other places as well.
Next month, I am in Florida, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Alabama.
Making them towns, man.
That's right.
Making them towns. So what was it, Carmen, let's talk about you then. What was your forte into wrestling? How did you first get into it as a kid? And then how did you kind of to get into it now as a sort of a somewhat career?
So it was all like, I feel like it just had to happen because my grandma was a wrestling fan. And the way
that's everybody's story, by the way.
The way she would tell it would be like, I was such an unruly like baby, toddler, whatever. Like I'd be in my pen just being fussy, but like the second WCW would come on and Sting would be on TV, I would just like sit down and watch. And I was just like entranced by Sting. And then like, you know, growing up, like Sting's been with me my entire life. So like I've been watching that and like watching all the transformation. I'm like, this is the coolest thing. And you know, grew up watching WCW, was a huge fan of the cruiserweights. I'm actually getting to call a match on commentary in October for KFW Wrestling between Juventud Guerrera and Psychosis.
Oh, man.
In the year 2023. And that is, yeah, dude. I've done commentary for 2 of his matches now, and it's like, it is so weird. Like just driving Juventud around town, and he's like, hey, can we stop at Starbucks? And I'm just like, I played you in a video game. But as far as getting into wrestling, it was kind of right place, right time. Outside of wrestling, I work in the technical field. I work audio visual. And I was at Southern Honor Wrestling the night that Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho made their surprise appearance.
Oh, wow.
The one that Cody Rhodes was at as well. And not getting like super into detail, there's a technical glitch where basically the computer screen just randomly decided to mirror to the projector screen. And I happened to glance over and see it. And I quickly ran over to the booth and I said, everyone get out of my way. I'm fixing this. And Gary Lamb, the owner there, he's known me for a while, and he like knows that I work in AV, and he just said, listen to the man. So they all like stepped back. I like just took charge, grabbed the remote, turned the projector off, changed the settings around because I didn't want someone in the crowd looking up and like, was there a video titled Kenny Omega? Like,
yeah.
So that happened. And then the next month I was driving out to their show. And when I was maybe an hour out, Gary calls me up and says, hey man, do you work with lights? I was like, not really. Like I'm mainly an audio guy, but I'm willing to learn. He said, awesome. Well, our lighting guy can't make it. Can you run lights tonight? And then I ran lights for Southern Honor for a little while there, and then pandemic hit, and then an opportunity with New South came up. I actually went and had a tryout, which I was there just to be a ring announcer, but everyone was working out. So I'm like, you know what? Like, I'll get in there. I'll do the drills, and accidentally tore my quad. Had no idea that I did. Was in the hospital for a few days. That was fun. But just been with New South ever since then, and now branching out. 3 years into being behind a microphone for wrestling, and still having the time of my life.
So yeah, you do a lot of the like the flyer graphics and video edit. If you've seen anything promoting New South, Carmen's probably done it.
All the visuals, so every flyer, match graphic, every entrance video. I do ring announcing, commentary. I set up the audio. I set up the screens the day of the show. I help set up the pipe and drape. Like, I am in the trenches.
It's crazy too, because with technology getting so much better and getting more affordable, it's allowed these wrestling companies to put on high looking production value things on kind of a budget, right? Like New South wouldn't have been able to do this 15 years ago.
Oh no,
the equipment had been too expensive.
So when I first started seeing New South, I'd say I saw them maybe when they had been running for about a year.
Yeah.
And they had an entrance setup. They actually had like trussing. They had lights. They ran their own like custom light show. Each person had their own special look, like fog machine, all that. But like once, like you mentioned, pricing goes down on a giant projector screen, and you're like, ooh, now we can have not only entrance videos, but we can like record promos to put on the screen, or we can have, a pre-show loop that, has our upcoming shows or has trivia or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's been pretty awesome.
Yeah. And, even for a company like GCW, right? The ability to go live on a streaming service is wild. The accessibility of wrestling that's out there today.
No pun intended, but it's an absolute game changer. Cause like you're scrolling on Twitter, you see a match graphic and you're like, oh man, like, why would I not want to see Brian Keith versus Speedball Mike Bailey? But then like in the past, it would be like the match would happen and you like 2 weeks later, you'd be like posting, hey, is this match posted anywhere yet? Not yet. It'll probably post in the next couple weeks. And like by then, like the buzz has kind of died down.
Right,
like now we're, IWTV, Fight TV, like all these promotions, I think Premiere's a thing now. Now you can just watch it live as it happens. You tweet along and then move on.
Do you go to a lot of the local wrestling events?
When I can. It's tough during the baseball season because you're just occupied so much by that. But yeah, I love going to live wrestling.
Yeah, I don't get out as much as I should. I've been waiting for some of the New South stuff to come into Huntsville. I know, like
we've got some stuff coming up.
Yeah, I've seen some hints of things coming, so I'm super excited about it. I should have probably driven over to Florence for some, because it looks like y'all have made Florence a very regular stop.
Yes,
recently
Florence has become our new home of sorts.
So yeah, I mean, you've got, Thursday night is huge, and then there's the GCW show in Huntsville that Saturday that a bunch of New South folks are going to be on, and then GCW versus New South 2 takes place in Florence on that Sunday.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I know there's definitely some other Huntsville shows coming up that I'm super excited about. I know there used to be stuff at Furniture Factory.
Yes, we used to do a top shelf show there, which was a 21 and up show. So it was a little more adult oriented. There were some of the shows that we couldn't even film to put online. So like, we had some crazy things happening. And is it cool if I break some news here?
Sure.
You mentioned Huntsville, and I'm like, you know what? I just made this graphic yesterday. Might as well. You want to take a look at that, Ricky?
Let me see that right there.
July 22nd. New South will be returning to Huntsville, Alabama at the Salty Nut Brewery.
Ooh.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, like that place.
We're enjoying our brewery shows.
Is that going to be in the back?
I have not been there, so
yeah, they've got a great section out back. Like that seems like that would be ideal.
But again, having that online presence is something that's super important, because like inevitably there's going to be a kid who's coming with his family to the Trash Panda game, who walks through the gate, sees wrestling, goes, "What is this?" and then is able to look you guys up online and become a fan that way. Like,
the coolest thing happened to me about a month and a half ago, maybe, where we have this fan that comments on every single New South video on YouTube. It's an elderly gentleman who lives in Kentucky, and it's like the highlight of his day is watching New South wrestling when we release a new video. And he happened to be vacationing in Tennessee when much of our crew was up there for a show called KFW. So he ended up coming to the show decked out in some bootleg New South merch, which, I didn't say anything. I was like, you know what? I respect your hustle. By the way, ProWrestlingTees.com. Pro Wrestling.
They don't get that in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Don't blame him. It's not his fault.
This guy came out to the show just to see all of his favorite New South wrestlers who were on the show. And it was awesome meeting that, just having that connection that you wouldn't have if it wasn't for, the ability to just look up wrestling just at your fingertips. Like, on my phone right now, I can pull up pretty much every wrestling match to ever be televised.
That's really how I got accustomed to you guys too. Because I've lived here my entire life. I had no idea what the local wrestling promotion was until I follow you guys, and then I see all this stuff, and I'm like, man, these guys sure are doing a lot, and these graphics look really good. And I'm like, what? That
was one of the things when I first started following, because Patrick told me about you guys, because I had gone to another local promotion down the road a couple of years ago. And Patrick was like, yeah, we got to go to a New South show. We've been talking about it for a while. And then I started following you guys on whatever, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of those. And I was like, I came to him one day and I was like, their graphics stuff is top notch. I was like, it's pro. Like, because sometimes you see things and you're like, oh, this looks.
That's my number one pet peeve in wrestling.
Yeah, but I was like, this is pro. And another shout out too, Dump. Sanders posted something about the new shirts on Facebook a couple weeks ago, and I messaged him and I was like, hey, what's the biggest size you guys make? I was like, because I'm a big dude. And he was like, well, I think we got him up to whatever. And I was like, okay, that's what I'm talking about. So I got to get me a shirt. Do you know, I
was about to say, Dump is a large man himself. So he's...
I feel like you can't have the nickname Dump without being
Dump Sanders, man. Yeah. What a name.
So what are you most excited about, Ricky, about like getting to bring people that like don't normally pay attention to wrestling? Like, are you excited to see the looks on those people's faces, or what are you excited about that
After seeing it once real, I do love the fans that have no idea what's happening, but then they also don't leave. They stay for the entire thing.
That was my favorite part last time.
That's great to see. Because, baseball and wrestling, I don't think those roads really cross each other a ton as far as...
Macho Man was a collegiate baseball player.
Well, as far as like fans, you're like, hey, when's the Reds game? I don't know. I'm going to a wrestling show tonight.
Well, I feel like you guys aren't in the age bracket that I am, but see, like back in the day, wrestling was on the same channel as the Atlanta Braves baseball.
You're right, yeah. Well, maybe I'm an idiot then.
No. Y'all are just young compared to me. I'm the old guy.
Well, I'm not even... I remember. Yeah. Okay. Good point. Can we just cut that last one? But selfishly, my favorite part is getting involved, and Carmen always finds a way to get me involved there. And like I said, that's the dream right there. I get paid for all the other stuff I do there. This is where it's at.
Last time, Rolando Perez was threatening Sprocket and
had to take him out, man.
Had to do what you had to do, man.
Had to take him out, and then I'm watching AEW like 3 months later, and I see him come out. I'm like, oh, hey.
Yeah.
I beat this guy.
I closed on that guy. And everyone's like, shut up. What are you talking about? I'm like,
let's see. You beat Rolando. Rolando beat Matt Cardona. So that means you could beat Matt Cardona and be the internet wrestling.
I'm glad you said it, because I was thinking it. Yeah,
that's how it works.
You heard it here.
Alabama Slam.
Ricky Fernandez versus Matt Cardona.
So, Ricky, bringing it back to baseball, who is a baseball player out there, either on the Trash Pandas or at the majors, that you think would make a really fantastic pro wrestler in another life?
It's got to be a pitcher. All right, because pitchers are weird. And I know that because pitchers have told me that. And all of the position players, whenever I talk to them, they say, oh, yeah, the pitchers are weird.
Yeah.
So I think of a close. You remember, I think his name was Brian Wilson, the Fear the Beard guy that used to play for the Giants back in the day.
Yeah.
That guy was a pro wrestler. He just happened to have a 98-mile-an-hour fastball.
Yeah.
That was the first one.
He was always looking for the camera.
Oh, yeah. We got a guy in our team, Kenyon Yovan. He comes out to the Undertaker theme song every time he hits the mound. He did it at Oregon where he pitched collegiately. We heard about it here, and we're like, dude, there's not another chance you hit the mound without hearing that gong. Like,
how long does it take him to get to the...
He takes his time. You don't get to flesh out the full song like you'd wish, but it's enough to set the mood. And anytime he strikes a guy out, he's by far the most animated person on the team. Maybe if you combined everybody together, they wouldn't be as animated as this man.
Yeah.
He's getting hyped. He's pounding the chest. His hat's coming off. He's flipping over the railing of the dugout. This guy is pro wrestling, and you can tell with these with these ball players. They usually have a beard and they're in the bullpen. Odds are that guy's a wrestling fan.
It's crazy too, because like as you become an adult, like when you find another wrestling fan, it's usually like a hidden thing, and then you go, "Oh, you're a wrestling fan," and then you immediately have a kinship with that person because it's such a niche like fan base that it has. It's
that's like what I was talking about earlier. Like I wouldn't even bring up wrestling to people.
Yeah.
Like, but just even if I knew the guy and we never brought it up or anything, I'd be like, "Hey, so did you?"
Yeah.
This podcast started because this is what we talked about at work every morning.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it's great when you got a wrestling buddy, man. You can chat all this stuff out. I mean, that's where it's at.
My problem is everyone I work with outside of wrestling have this conceived notion of wrestling from when they watched as a kid, and they're just all like, "Oh man, is Stone Cold Steve Austin still wrestling?" I'm like,
yeah.
Nope, not really.
He's in his mid-50s.
yeah. But I mean, he wrestled. Was it last year? 2 years ago, WrestleMania? KO, yeah.
But that was his first match in 19 years.
19 years, yeah.
I've had just as many matches in the last 19 years as Stone Cold Steve Austin. Actually, I've had more. I've been in Rumbles. So
I think I'm tied.
I'm like 4 times more than Stone Cold Steve Austin.
The problem is he probably has, 57 times the bank account is probably what.
Yeah, I would say that's a problem.
So, yeah, we'll have to double check the math. But
yeah. No, I mean,
probably a little more than that.
I'm not saying you two guys aren't doing well.
Damn, that dude's got $57.
Can't hide money.
That's funny. Awesome.
There will be signs, right?
Yeah, there'll be signs. So give us info. So it's Thursday, June 22nd. Is that correct?
Yes, 5:20 p.m. is where we're going to kick off the wrestling. Again, this is going to be taped for Action Clash episode 100. So I'm excited. Maybe we can get a Tricky Ricky in the ring.
Dude, I'm not showing up unless I get to go in the ring. I'll go on the roof and I will get a hose and I will create my own rain delay if I'm not involved.
My arm's twisted here.
We did say this off air before we started recording. The 2 Trash Panda games I've tried to attend in the past it was for work stuff. I was there with somebody to film some things, and both of those games got rained out. So
the games you come to get rained out. The shows that your friend watches, people get injured because Brandon Williams broke his ankle at the show your friend came to for GCW.
He did. That is true.
Dang.
Oh, damn. I didn't even
Y'all are just bad luck.
Yeah, I'll just tell you about it on Friday. Does that work?
That'll work.
Just watch it when it drops on YouTube, man.
Yeah.
There
We'll
you go.
Yeah.
Okay, what if I stand outside the...
You just look through the gate.
It'll be up that following Tuesday. We're good.
There you go.
But yeah, and might have to pick me up a Fat Boy shirt. I'm assuming there's merch sales at the
I think there's a battle at the Ballfield shirt, right?
Allowed. Yes, prowrestlingtees.com/New South Pro Wrestling. We have a special battle at the Ballfield shirt that you can only get there. It's got special little sprocket themed. Obviously not going to mess with anyone's intellectual property, so they've changed some things around, but
gotcha.
It's definitely Trash Pandas themed. But
yeah,
what is Sprocket's finishing move? Do we know,
Ooh.
Ricky?
It's the old Boston Crab. No, I don't know.
I feel like Sprocket's arms are too short.
So
the pump handle slam.
We do have a wrestler at New South named Rita Raccoon, and she calls herself the Trash Panda, and she likes to utilize the claws in the back.
Okay,
that's a big thing, and claws on the chest. So I feel like a tag team with Rita and Sprocket would be.
Or is there going to be heat between them?
I was going to say maybe a raccoon leaves town match.
There you go.
A dumpster match.
Whoa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is the loser of that one actually
now
the
we're
winner
cooking.
in this?
First person in the dumpster wins.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like a reverse battle royal.
Reverse. Yeah, there you go.
Let's switch gears a little bit. And just talk about some of the week in wrestling. Normally, that's what we do. We talk about our favorite things from the week. But since we've got a couple of new folks here, anything in the last week that stood out to you guys that y'all want to talk about first?
Sting and Jericho, baby. 2 of my top 3 favorite wrestlers of all time. And thankfully, I've gotten to work with both of them. Chris a little more often since I worked with his band Fozzy on the music videos, but seeing those 2 share a ring for the first time, like it takes a lot to get me like super hyped in wrestling.
Yeah.
But when they were face to face, I'm like rocking on my couch, like, yeah, buddy, let's go. I was excited.
Yeah.
Me, it's got to be this Saturday for Collision, man. I'm ready to see CM Punk come back. I don't know how you guys feel about him, yay or nay, but I'm excited to see whatever happens because it's going to be nuts.
the other of my 3 favorites.
I just
covered them all.
I just want to see what they do.
Yeah.
Because there was a behind the scenes video last night from a fan cam. CM Punk does that promo. The fans in DC, it's about 50-50 boos and cheers.
Yeah.
So if they lean into this.
Well, if you run a show in Chicago every week, that's not a problem.
And
that's where they're going to be. Yeah, it won't be a problem this week, but
I mean, obviously he is the biggest star that they have, right? I mean, Omega, all those guys, they don't have the type of name appeal that a guy like CM Punk has.
That's why you just send him out there with a live mic and just have him say, "So, what do you want to talk about?"
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. There's so much,
layers.
Yeah.
So much there.
Yeah.
And I can't believe it's too bad that it hasn't been able to be, just cultivated somehow between the fight and then where we're at now. Because with everyone's so smart to wrestling now, but what are the one thing that's like realer than anything? It's like anything you see on social media. I believe it immediately. That's real. That's happening.
Yep.
So like Twitter has become wrestling. Kind of.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
Yes, it absolutely.
It's like the realest thing we have, and like 20% of it's real. All right. So the fact this hasn't been like, I don't know, we've had to wait this entire time, and you just hear from the distance, oh, this happened here. This happened here. Is it really going to happen? Is the show in Chicago?
Is it a work or is it a shoot?
Oh my God. I know. It's like
CM Punk said he'd only come back if so-and-so came back. Well, he's not going to work with him. We're going to have 2 separate locker rooms, but we really haven't thought about how pay-per-views are going to work, but we're going to have 2 shows with different, like just the nonstop. This man's been gone for almost a year and it's been just nonstop speculation. Like,
yeah,
he hasn't had to say a word for like all of Twitter, just talk about him nonstop.
The wrestling fan of me is like, I can't get enough of it. But then I'm like, am I being worked? I'm like, no, I can't be. I'm like,
but that's the thing. Like this is, we've talked about, and Corey and I have talked about it on the podcast before. This is like the new era of kayfabe. Like this is the only way that we can get the similar feeling to what a wrestling fan that was going to Madison Square Garden in the 1940s felt when they were watching and didn't know, like, was it real? Was it fake? I mean, people have always kind of had inklings, right? I mean, there's that book that talked about the Gold Dust Trio that was published in like the 1920s, right? Like people have kind of always felt, that's why it's so hard to find like old wrestling history matches. It's because like the New York Times, they didn't cover it the way they covered baseball when they figured out the matches were rigged. So we can't find that history. So like with this, people using Twitter like this is like a new era that we've never kind of seen before. And we really don't know what the storytelling devices are yet.
Yeah.
So it's like CM Punk, he posts on his Instagram, like, is that Phil Brooks? Is that CM Punk? Like who is posting that?
Yeah.
Is that part of the show? Is it not part of the show? Where does the 2 hours of Dynamite stop? Does it stop at 9 o'clock? Does it keep going on to Instagram? Like,
it's funny you say that because I haven't checked Takeshita's Twitter feed since he turned heel. So I'd be interested to see how that went because, that was a big topic of discussion for a while was just Takeshita getting used to being in the States. And,
I hate Cinnabon.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I was busy for the last few hours before this, but this morning something came out on Twitter and it's like, oh, there's this ESPN interview with Punk and it's going to cause some issue backstage between now and Saturday. And I was like, oh my God, can we just wrestle?
Well, that's the thing is they've already told you he's coming. They've told you what match he's going to have. They've shown him on camera. So now they have to reach and grab some sort of little doubt. Like, is he actually going to show up? Like, I heard he said something mean again.
Oh,
he may not be it. I heard Tony Khan does not want to bring him back now. Like, they're just going back to this well, like the will he, won't he? I'm like, you've already announced it. Like,
yeah, it's going to happen. But they're trying to differentiate from what WWE's doing too. Like, there is something to be said for our product needs to be different than the people that are putting shows on a Monday and Friday. In what ways can we be different? Well, action packed, like the in-ring style we can do, but also some people want to pop off on Twitter and say some stuff. Let them pop off on Twitter. You know what I mean? Like it does. And it's now the thing is to try to get the match in the ring at some point. And if it actually happens with like Omega and the Bucks, those kind of guys, if the match never happens, then that's one thing.
But then, you got to figure out a way to work up to that too. Cause you got basically Punk versus 3 other dudes.
Or at the end of Collision, Punk and FTR standing tall and Carry On My Wayward Son just hits. and we just start.
You just get at it right from the gate.
And then roll credits, fade to black.
Yeah, you just have them stand at the ramp.
Leave the people wanting more.
So Patrick mentioned at one point, like maybe you could pay this off at Wembley, right? Somehow.
There's going to be a lot of people there. I don't know.
I mean, AEW's thing is they need to pull as many people into their tent as possible. We've talked about that before. They need to draw in as many wrestling fans, and they need to make new wrestling fans. That's a big thing. That's a real struggle because we might be tapped out on the amount of people that are wrestling fans and have time and availability to watch as much content as
I mean, I got to be honest. If I were just starting it, like I got my wife roped into it a few months back with the Bloodline story.
It's overwhelming. There's a lot of wrestling.
Yeah, she's like, look, honey, I can't do AEW. That's too violent. She's like, that's not for me. But I'm like, well, it's better wrestling. I was like, the storyline might be cool. The storyline for Bloodline is cool. I was like,
yeah.
So your wife's not much for work rate, huh?
Yeah.
She's not trying to watch Darby Allin, right?
Yeah.
But if I were super new, I'd be a little overwhelmed, especially knowing we got now on a Saturday. I mean, it's a good time if you're into it. It's a super awesome time.
Yeah, if you have a podcast, it's great. It's great stuff. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it is a lot.
Well, the thing I wonder about too is like, if he goes out there Saturday and the people hate him or the people love him, it's like, what are you going to do the next week? Is it like a Canadian Stampede issue where every week he's going from heel to face depending on where they're at? In which case, how do you plan for something like that? You know, do you even have a bad guy and a good guy? Do you just have two separate entities and you let the crowd decide that night what they're going to do?
Well, I was going to say, we've seen that from him since he came to AEW. There's been several times where, you know, he's kind of leaned into, you know, playing the bad guy, like facing off against MJF or, you know, whoever else it may be, where the crowd doesn't like him. He's going to lean into it. Like, you know, when they went to Long Island, he went full blown, like, press the gas pedal all the way down. Like,
still, even then, though, like, he was still like, it seemed like the AEW mascot. Like, let's bring out CM Punk, he'll wave. Or he's like royalty, like the king or something. Let's have him give a speech.
I have made my contractual obligations.
Everyone will take a picture, say, I was there the night CM Punk came out. And then he just kind of went on his way. Like, now there's people that are like, I hate that guy. Or I absolutely love that guy. So I love where that can go for him.
Yeah. I mean, I think Saturday in Chicago will be fine. The next week will be the test.
That's the test. And also, like, look, this is his biggest complaint when he was in WWE is that he was never, quote unquote, the guy, right? There was always Cena. He was the champ, but no one thought of him as being the guy, right? Now here in AEW, now all the pressure's on him because the ratings have been somewhat struggling, been stagnant. Now you have this brand new show. He is the face of it. Right? The reports were the only reason they're really having this show is because they have to put CM Punk on here somewhere. And Warner wants more content because anything that you can have live is more valuable than, you know, throwing up Avengers 2 or whatever the hell on a Saturday night, right? So, like, this is a real test. Like, can he do it? Can he stay healthy? That's also been the big thing. He's been injured.
Yeah.
Can I just point out how hilarious I find it that every week, well, just about every day on Twitter, it's a bunch of fans complaining about or like gloating, like, well, this show got this many viewers and this show got this many viewers. Like, oh, AEW's in the dumps now. But like,
yeah,
by all measures, it seems like Warner is very happy with AEW because they keep giving them more content.
Yeah, the television ratings they're a little bit, I think they're a little bit overrated, particularly in the modern age. Like, what is that even? Who are they counting? Because AEW's fan base is way more online than WWE. There's probably a lot of people illegally streaming this thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's hard to gauge that kind of stuff. But yeah, this is going to test AEW's creativity and like the booking. Like we've talked about on this podcast before, my hesitation with AEW is that I think if the one thing that's going to hold them back is their ability to be extremely creative in their booking because it's kind of been same. Well, now you add 2 more hours of programming. Could be a blessing in disguise because then you can use more guys. But
Eddie Kingston, what's up?
Well, then he makes his return Wednesday night too.
Yeah, we've been wondering. We're like, okay, well, at what point do we see Kingston back on AEW? And it caught me off guard last night.
Yeah,
I loved it.
The whole ending of Dynamite last night was fantastic. I thought,
folks, he tried to burn a man alive on pay-per-view.
I know.
y'all are like, let's bring him back.
Look, we are. This podcast is a team Eddie. And we are Team Ricky Starks.
Yeah.
Team Takeshita.
I'm on that team too. It's cool. It's cool. I'm team all Rickies.
I'm very much
All Rickies.
Yeah,
very much team Takeshita. I ring announced for a show called Terminus in Atlanta. It was when he was still just, visiting America.
Yeah.
He had a match with Jonathan Gresham that I got to ring announce, and it was
I bet that was awesome.
incredible to be standing there, carrying the Ring of Honor title over to my little table and setting it down. And I'm just like, what is my life right now? This is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, Punk stuff will be interesting. Patrick said last night the ending was great. We got Eddie back. Takeshita came out. Ospreay was there, surprisingly. Got a fantastic pay-per-view lined up for next weekend. We were talking about this before recording, Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay, and then Bryan Danielson versus Okada is worth the price of the pay-per-view alone.
And then on the other side, you have the biggest star in WWE going up against Dominic Mysterio at Money in the Bank.
Oh, that's the same weekend. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
And also that same weekend, GCW versus New South 2, which you can stream live on Fight Plus.
Yeah.
Also a great option. Ain't that right, Ricky?
Mm-hmm. I watched myself at the GCW show after I went to it last time.
I'm excited to see Blake Christian. I'm a huge fan of that guy. That guy is fantastic.
That guy knocked my hat off when he was walking to the back. He threw it up against a wall.
Yeah, I remember seeing him come out at the end when Jay Briscoe passed. And he had, I guess, Christian had a match with Claudio, a dark match or whatever. And I saw him on stage. I was like, what's happening there? Why is he there? And then I read that he had the dark match. But I looked at my son. I was like, we saw him. We saw him.
So next week, Saturday the 24th, Blake Christian will be defending GCW championship against Adam Priest. And then the very next night, GCW versus New South 2, he'll be facing off with Brandon Williams. So if he's able to get past Priest with that title, who knows? He may have another championship match.
Awesome.
There you go.
I got
Christian with Blake Christian with a change of attitude in GCW. I don't know if you call
Did he turn face?
No, he turned. No, he almost had the whole state of New York peg him with Bud Lights and Miller Lights cans.
What?
When he
I
won the
missed
champ.
it.
Yeah, he's GCW champ now.
Well, I knew that he won, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He cashed in his opportunity for the championship and defeated Masha. It was
awesome.
Quite the sight.
Yeah, it was a hell of a show.
Yeah.
Also, too, like what you're talking about, like the ability to just be able to keep up with stuff on Twitter. It's just like fantastic.
There's so many shows that I have no time to sit down and dedicate 3 hours of my life to that I'm just like, I can go on Twitter and see clips and can see, the gist of how everyone's feeling about it. And if I see something that I'm like, okay, this looks really cool, I can actually then go back and watch the match.
Yeah, the sad part about last night was that the Ospreay appearance and the Eddie Kingston return was ruined for me because I normally watch it as live as I can, but I was super late getting home from an event last night, and I was like, damn, Kingston return is ruined.
Yeah. So
those midday WWE pay-per-views too are the worst.
Oh,
I'm thinking I'm going to watch it later when I get home. I get on Twitter at 2 p.m. and everything is spoiled.
No, my favorite is since I have a Pixel, Google will just like randomly give me a pop-up notification of like a news article I may like. So it's like that happened to me for the last Saudi show where I'm at work and I'm like, okay, gonna stay off Twitter, gonna, catch what I can later on. And then I get the little notification pops up and then it's like, Seth Rollins is your new world heavyweight champion. I'm like, all right. Well, I did
you got a smart to the business phone.
Yeah.
That's not what you want. It ruins your viewing.
Yeah. Seth Rollins now, I guess, is just going to be the complete opposite of Roman Reigns and is going to defend the title.
Yeah.
Anybody on every single show.
Yeah.
Which is...
So he's going to face Braun Breaker Tuesday?
NXT,
and Akira Tozawa the week after that.
Yep.
The super duper intercontinental championship, baby. The workers belt.
Yeah. So what's in WWE that's, you guys are liking? Is it Bloodline stuff?
My favorite right now is LA Knight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, dude. I remember watching an NWA show, NWA Power, just like randomly, like 3 or 4 years ago and seeing Eli Drake on there.
Yes.
Never heard of him. I'm like, who is this guy? I like what he's doing. I don't know what he's doing or who he's with. And then dude shows up in WWE, and I've loved everything. Well, not everything he's done. Everything recently.
He survived it though.
Yeah, that's right.
He survived it.
Every locker room that I'm in now, like, it doesn't matter. There, at some point, there's going to be a party where one person will just go, yeah. And then everyone in the entire locker room just starts doing it. It's just like if you have like a huge group of birds just right outside your window, and I was going, yeah.
And now, the internet wrestling community is so fickle. Like, now there's a backlash against LA Knight, right? Oh, he's derivative. Oh, he's not original. And it's just like, shut up, man. Just let us enjoy. Can we not enjoy somebody? Like,
hell no. Like, when do wrestling fans enjoy wrestling?
No, we hate ourselves. We love what we hate what we love.
Yeah, like I said it before about like Star Wars. I'm like, Star Wars fans hate Star Wars more than anybody. But wrestling is kind of the same too.
I think Star Wars fans are worse though.
Oh, yeah,
I think Star Wars fans are worse than wrestling fans. Yeah. That should be an interesting bracket. Who has the worst fan base?
Well, I only work in one half of that. I don't imagine there's a lot of people who work like on the sets of Star Wars that get messages from fans like, I wouldn't have wrote it that way. Because I get messages occasionally after one of our shows like, why did y'all do that? Like, I don't like that. I'm just like, well, I can't just outright say like, well, you don't know what's happening the next 3 months.
Hey man, watch next week.
You don't work here.
Tune in.
At least you got the week to week excuse. Star Wars, they made a movie and then, where were they were they in Kentucky next Tuesday hanging out with the bootleg t-shirt guy? No, they weren't.
Bootleg Star Wars shirt guy.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we're LA Knight dudes too. Like at first, it took me a while. I'm not gonna lie. When he had that match versus Bray Wyatt, I was like, why is this happening?
Oh boy.
But he survived that.
You can't kill this man. Yeah. He's been a male model. He's fought a wrestling Michael Myers, and now he's just doing his thing. And I think he's going to take that Money in the Bank, man. I'm pumped to.
Money in the Bank is going to be.
Oh, you say that. Logan Paul's going to inject himself in that match, and he's going to win.
He's going to chug a Prime Energy.
That's the WWE thing to do is say, here are your 6 people in this match, and then be like, LOL, you thought, here's a 7th person. Like, just right.
Yeah, don't do that to us, because right now the lineup is pretty slick for those 6 spots. Mm-hmm. You got Montez Ford. Who else? Oh God, I just lost everybody that was in it.
I blanked on it.
I saw the picture.
LA Knight. You got Santos Escobar.
Yeah.
I went totally blank.
I wanted Dominic Mysterio, and then he did the thing with Cody Rhodes, and I was like, I'm all right with this.
Dude, Dom walking around with that briefcase would be money.
Dude,
you can't tell me about it. Like, Damian Priest is in the match.
Yeah, Damian Priest, yeah.
But yeah, the Dom Cody thing will be fun, and then
because you have the loudest match of the night.
You have to think Dom's going to win because Brock has to interfere.
Sure.
Oh, and then you give Dom the win.
Then Dom can brag about that.
And then Dom has a t-shirt that says, I beat Cody. He just walks around. I'm going to get on another love fest. Listeners of this podcast know how much I love Dominic Mysterio just because, like, I relate it to sports a lot. And you probably know being around the trash pan is like, there's just a moment where like it clicks for a guy and you can start seeing the confidence. And when you start getting the confidence, that's when like, you're like, oh shit, this dude is like hitting another level. It's like a baseball player, right? Like I'm sure at some point you're just like, it's hits. And then you're like, you look up and you're like, this dude's hit 350 this month. Like it's just wild things like that. And I like putting people in those positions and just seeing how they respond. And I mean, these 18 months, like we compare him to Wardlow a lot. Cause like if you go back 18 months ago and be like, you have a draft pick, who are you going to take for the next 10 years? You want Wardlow or Dominic Mysterio? Probably everyone would have picked Wardlow. And now at this point, like, yeah, I don't know how you don't pick Dominic Mysterio going forward. So it's kind of crazy to think about. But yeah,
he's got a slappability factor where you just want to smack him in the face.
And you can't.
And I would be scared to slap Wardlow.
No, I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like on the other side. Because I have seen this man up close and personal.
I would not slap Wardlow.
I got to meet him on set for a Fozzy music video. They filmed his like debut vignette that day. So he stopped by and he was coming by shaking all of our hands. And as soon as he walked away, I looked over at Chris and I was like, he's a wrestler, isn't he? He said, oh yeah, he's our new guy. And I was like, okay, your secret's safe with me. So
there's something that's off about Wardlow, and I don't know. He comes off so likable in interviews, and I kind of feel like similar to what AEW's done with Sammy Guevara, where they've just let him be kind of the Sammy that was on All Access. If they just let Wardlow kind of have that personality, I think because right now he's just generic big guy.
Well, I do think there's some juxtaposition there. You have the well-spoken big man.
Yeah.
Like typically is very genuine with how he speaks, but then you have his manager who's just like a get off my lawn or I'm going to shoot you.
Yeah.
Like, it's a nice,
yeah.
quite the tonal difference.
Thing, yeah.
But and then speaking of Sammy, they looked like they were fixing to take him in a different direction last night. And I guess we'll get more on that maybe next week.
Yeah, I think that's how it ends up.
Like it looked like he was fixing to be like, hey, I'm out of the JAS.
Yeah.
And then Jericho's music hit or whatever. So
face off with Sting.
Yeah, they didn't get to finish it.
Yeah.
Interesting week for sure in wrestling. Y'all got any final thoughts before we wrap it up? Cool.
Everything.
Well,
R.I.P. Cormac McCarthy.
Yeah, that was a big loss for
sad.
you. I was going to text you, but I knew you had already seen it. So
if I'd have been by myself when the news broke, I'd have cried. For real. Which is like, I don't know. Do you guys even know who that is, Cormac McCarthy?
Yeah, I've heard the name. You ever watch that show, Mike Tyson Mysteries?
I have not. No.
It's on Adult Swim. They talked about him once on there.
Okay.
And Mike kept mispronouncing his name.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, what is he about to
Yeah.
do?
I was trying to figure out where that was
There
going.
was Norm Macdonald played the pigeon. And Mike Tyson played himself.
Nice.
And he would just mispronounce Cormac McCarthy every single time he said
That
it.
checks out. Well, tell everybody where they can find you guys on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you want them to be able to follow you guys.
Well, I'll be hanging out at the Map Code down over off of Parkway.
With the dancing Michael Jackson.
Yeah, we'll be hanging out. We talk wrestling over there from time to time. No, I'm at Tricky Ricky RCTP on the tweet box. I pretty much just use it to follow wrestling. So if you want to say what's up, I usually get back to you pretty quickly.
As far as Twitter on my end, it's Carmen M. Childers. Also be sure to follow at New South _PW to keep up with what we're doing. Got a lot of big stuff coming up, bringing in some good names. So just follow along.
I got one last thought since you were asked, and you talked about almost weeping. Has a wrestling moment almost made you cry out of joy, or have you wept? Because we were talking about Sting earlier, and when I saw Sting come back in AEW, and then Tony Schiavone's like, "Hey, it's Sting," and he's walking out, I was like, "Am I as a grown man? I'm like gonna cry right now."
So I was supposed to be at that show, and this girl that I was friends with at the time, she talked me out of going to that one, and instead was like, "Why don't you go to the one 2 weeks later that I'm going to be at?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not?"
Yeah.
And when I was sitting at home and Sting came out to make his debut, I lost my mind. I was like, at first it was like excitement, like, yes. And now my nephew came out of his room. He's like, dude, shut up.
So did Shivani know?
But then I'm like, oh yeah, he had to.
Yeah, dude. Right.
You think so?
But like in the middle of my excitement, I stop and think about it. I'm like, you son, I was supposed to be there.
It's a shame.
The anger that happens.
Oh, I still screamed my head off when he came out like 2 weeks later. So it's all good.
Yeah.
I went to the show I ended up going to turned out to be the Brody Lee Memorial. Wasn't supposed to be, obviously.
I think I shed a tear during that one. When they had -1 in there.
Speaking of what, trying it back, I legitimately had a tear in my eye when -1 got the title. So
Yeah.
Daniel Bryan's retirement from Raw just had me in shambles. Just because
joyful things though.
Yeah.
I wept out of joy. Whoa.
It did get a little sad.
I think I teared up when Kofi won a few years ago.
Oh, that was a big one.
That was
I was
there was a
happy
lot
for
of
him.
lead up to that one. I don't think I've come close probably on a time or two in a pay-per-view. But the Kofi one sticks out.
Kofi one's big.
The ones for me that stick out the most are like the ones with a personal connection. Like when I see my friends do something big in wrestling and I have that like proud papa moment, that's what I love.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever wept from joy. And maybe when I was a kid, probably back Sting
Does
versus.
that mean you don't cry? Does that mean you don't feel joy?
That means
Or they just don't mix.
I don't think they mix with wrestling. Like I said, the Daniel Bryan sad stuff. I'm a saddie at heart.
Max Dupree's final match, I wept for days. I mean, days on end.
Yeah.
Well, what are they thinking? Vince must be back fiddling around. This had money on it.
There have been definitely moments where I've just been like, kind of jaw on the floor, like can't believe what I watched. Omega Ospreay from Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah.
Omega Okada from their trilogy of matches, where you're just like, I've watched wrestling my whole life. I've never seen anything like this. The amount of risks that these dudes are like taking is like, I think right now we are spoiled with just how good these athletes are.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we're going to be able to really realize it until we get 20 years down the road. Because right now we're just in the moment and we kind of just take it all for granted. But like last night, Adam Cole and MJF just had like a great 30-minute TV match.
On a Wednesday.
On a random Wednesday. And like, that's something that did not happen in the 1980s. You didn't get that because they had to bring you out to the shows, right? So you get Jerry Lawler beating up a jobber for 2 minutes. And then he gets on the microphone because they want you to come out to the fairgrounds or whatever for the week. And like,
think about it, even just 10 years ago. Like,
yeah.
If you'd have told me like, hey, let's watch Raw, I'd be like, oh, really?
Yeah.
For what?
Sure.
Yeah.
Do we have to?
It's 3 hours.
We're watching an old one, right? Yeah. Is this the one where Vince gets stunned?
Yeah.
I'm in. Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
no. Current day.
Yeah. And now you get, and it's kind of cool to see now all these people who, like us, have kind of grown up with wrestling and been fans going into different fields, kind of like evangelizing for wrestling and how it's changed now. Because you don't get a story like The Bloodline, which is just like about family and about loyalty and like has all these Shakespearean themes. They weren't telling stories like that in the 80s, right? It was like, oh, Macho Man's pissed at Hulk because Hulk looked at held Miss Elizabeth up, you know? And like that kind of stuff. And now it's like, there's this whole backstory Civil War where like, if you try to tell somebody about like the Bloodline, you're like, all right, well, we got to go back 2.5 years. Okay. Where it's just like, that wasn't how wrestling was in the day.
That guy stole my jacket. I'll see you Saturday.
It was a lot of that stuff. So it's cool. Like, and this is kind of nerd stuff that we talk about the podcast, but like trying to really talk about wrestling as like an art form, because I think that's the one thing that has been missing from pro wrestling is like a serious analysis of it, as much as you can have a serious analysis about, you know, grown men in underwear fighting each other, you know?
Yeah.
But like it is like,
So I'll have you know, I did not wear underwear when I wrestled. So
was it a singlet?
oh yeah,
Aerodynamics.
Yeah.
that's all about that.
Yeah.
I've
I've got so much respect for anybody that's just like, I'm gonna put this underwear on and just go out in front of strangers. Like that's
Whenever
Wow.
my wife sees Matt Riddle, she's like, "Tell him to put on some breeches." She'll be like in the kitchen, put some breeches on that
It's
man.
gone too short.
he's gone too short, and it's also no knee pads and no boots, which is just like
A lot of leg.
a lot of leg.
Yeah, I can't even open up Instagram in public because I follow so many wrestlers.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Hey, why is your thing 50% sweaty dudes in their underpants? I'm like, it's art.
It's
All right, don't worry about it. And then I have to put my phone away,
Yeah.
look down at the floor.
Oh, that's great stuff. Yeah.
Well, yeah, man, we appreciate y'all being on here, and we're super excited. There's just a big weekend in North Alabama wrestling next weekend. There's 3 events you can get out and go see, and if you don't, you're a sucker you should get to at least one of them.
Yes.
And you get a baseball game if you go on Thursday.
And you get doors if you go to the other one.
Yeah.
Yo, and plus, it's not like at 6 o'clock, the wrestlers, you're not going to see them again. We got some other ways to get them involved throughout the game.
Well,
So,
Ooh.
yeah.
There'll be wrestler involvement throughout the night, as well as I do believe we're going to do some photo opportunities with Humongold,
Awesome.
our viral championship that goes around on Facebook and Twitter
Awesome.
at least once every 6 months.
Yeah, and if you don't already, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Alabama Slam Pod, and you can find us on Facebook. Just search the Alabama Slam Podcast. We really appreciate y'all listening, and we'll talk to y'all next week.
Later, guys.